and welcome into the Boise State Game Pants Esports Arena. Boise State Overwatch kicking off their NECC season tonight. In a sense, it's activation week for the NECC, very similar to preseason. This helps teams be seeded into the appropriate groups and divisions for the regular season that will kick off in 2 weeks. So Boise State trying to make sure that they absolutely set themselves in pristine condition. We expect this team to, I don't want to say roll the competition, but I'll say they're favored in every game here tonight. Boise State's going to start with Santa Clara, then they'll take on UC Santa Cruz. I am your host, Michael Fisher, and joining me to call all of the action is Colby D'Angelo Alloway. And D'Angelo, last time we saw Boise State, we were very familiar with the roster. It's a roster that had been around for a while. Tonight, it's going to be a little bit different. It starts at the main tank lineup. Names we recognize, it'll be Plato main tank and Kel off tank. We've seen Plato's Reinhardt adventure from time to time. What are we expecting from Plato now that he's permanently in this main tank role for the semester?
So you know that Venom movie, the new Venom movie that's coming out, Venom, There Will Be Carnage. Plato, There Will Be Carnage. Yep. I fully expect him to roll into the enemy team, and I sincerely hope that the rest of Boise State, particularly main healers, but also DPS being there to back him up, like, I really hope that they're there to back him up, because nobody can 1v6, right? But we've definitely, first of all, seen him get pretty close.
Yes.
And then seen what he can do, even against high-level teams, hard inting like that. So I think it'll be very entertaining. We just all need to press W at the same time.
I will say, you say hopefully the DPS is there to back him up. He still might be behind Goblin, in all honesty. Goblin might still be in front of him, and he's just running down Goblin. That is going to be something we want to keep an eye on. Now, of course, the question becomes, okay, with Plato's not DPSing, who's in the DPS role? It will be Goblin, as I mentioned. It will also be a new Boise State player coming in for the first time this campus. Maxwell is going to be DPSing, and we talk a lot about Goblin. He also fits that role you were talking about, D'Angelo. He can 1v6. He can also sort of run in and int. As you see the roster here, the starting lineup for our first game tonight. How does a DPS player like Maxwell, how do you complement the chaos, the craziness, the controlled inting, if you will, of Goblin and complement that in a way that helps Boise State? Because Plato had it down to a T. Now we have a new player in Maxwell. How has he got to figure that out?
How do you complement solo play? As affectionately as possible. We love Goblin.
Yes,
we really do. He is an amazing player.
And he gets 6Ks. We got to love him.
Oh, absolutely. He's one of the best people to cast. But how do you complement solo play? That's really interesting because you kind of there are two options, right?
Yep.
You could risk yourself and go in there with him, right? Like go on a cheeky flank and then maybe try to I mean, this isn't Rocket League, but like pincher maneuver, go in.
Yeah, okay.
You could try that. Or you could just, and this is preferable, stay with your team so that if the flank fails, you're not down 2, you're only down 1. Because, I mean, Goblin has proved that he can and will get the 6K. But sometimes it's not there. Sometimes that's just not the way things are going to work. Sometimes it is. So, I mean, really just don't go in with him.
Yeah, it's going to be, like I said, Plato played that dance perfectly last year. He had figured it out. So I'll be very curious to see how that roster looks. Also, Boise State has a new support coming in. We'll see them in our second game of the night, so we'll talk more about that then. Here is the rules for NECC Overwatch. It is 3 rounds played. It is not a best of 3. They will play all 3 maps regardless of the score. It will be Control, Hybrid, Escort, though tonight the maps are fully predetermined. We will go into Paul, Hollywood, Havana in that order for both games. The loser, since of course there's no map choice on the line, will pick the side for the next round, which, D'Angelo, I'll ask you, let's say Boise State loses Control, or even for the side of St. Clair, what do you want to pick on Hollywood? Would you pick defending or would you pick attacking? What do you prefer on Hybrid when we get to that point?
Usually you want to try to defend on Hybrid. I mean, in most cases you end up having to do both, but if you only have to do one, obviously the defense is preferable because there's just that one point, there's that one choke point. That's how all of the Hybrid maps are. I mean, you have, like, your attackers have to go through one big choke. And there are a couple of different ways to, like, get around the choke, right? Like, you can, like, if you're on Hollywood, for example, you can, like, pop over the wall with a Pharmercy or now an Echo or something like that. Or you can get some cheeky Widow snipes over that wall. But for the most part, you're gonna come main or through that other window. Or if you're, like, super sneaky, you can go around the back. But for the most part, when you're defending, they come from a set amount of places.
Yep.
There are not a ton of unexpected flanks or angles on any of that Hollywood stuff. So if you only have to do one, defending is definitely preferable because you know what you're getting into.
I also really am a big fan of knowing what you have to do when you attack. Do I have to go all 3 points to force overtime? Do I have to maybe just get 2? Is time an issue? I am a big fan of knowing what I have to do before I actually have to do it, because attacking first, you're like, okay, we only got 2 points. Is that good enough? Is that not good enough? It is Boise State and St. Clair for our first matchup here. It is expected to be a very intense matchup, but again, it's all activation week. So this is all just for seeding. A loss here for Boise State, while we never want to see it, is something that it's like, okay, Boise State can regroup, they can recover, especially for a new lineup. Well, we get to Doc's keys here in Overwatch. Never take a fair fight. That means take fights at unexpected places when they are unprepared and when you can have ability advantages. It's all brought to you by Count, whose Identity Trust Global Network delivers real-time fraud prevention, account protection, and enables a personalized customer experience for more than 9,000 leading brands and payment providers. Quick and accurate identity trust decisions deliver safe payments, account creation, and login events while reducing digital fraud, chargeback, false positives, and manual review. Count.com, you can count on them to keep you safe. Well, while we wait to get in game against St. Clair, Boise State Overwatch actually had a match on Tuesday with NECC kicking off. I do believe we have some highlights from that match that we can take a look at, D'Angelo, because that is the one good thing here. Boise State already has had some fantastic practice here with this new lineup.
And as we can see, Plato on the screen there on the monkey, Plato's Bizarre Adventure, this is absolutely what we expected. Him going in and playing the DPS role, but with a lot more health.
Both the Lucio and the Echo getting caught out by themselves, but the large Bingo and Kelp able to manage to pick up 2 of them. The Diva now just getting D-Mech and getting taken down by Plato. Boise State is able to get that target recognition left, right, and center. They're securing the point, and it looks like Irvine Matter is going to have to go for
Player with the credit. With the Lucio, and the Shatter is going to come right on to Plato. Saw Boise State presence. Kel is trying to keep it going, and I don't blame Boise State right now, as they actually are able to take back the point. Now here comes Irvine Valley. Boise State has managed to stretch this out to 99. Chosen is able to take out that immortality field. Kel also getting the pick on to Kane,
but from the side of May. She's not going to have that utility with now. So it looks like Boise State's on the red side this time by fault. And Lynn able to get an early elimination onto the May, but Gob on
So I think the one thing I've been watching for the most part is kind of what the comps Boise State wants to run here. I think we talked about the Plato Rhine. That's been pretty popular. The DPS one is interesting because we saw Maxwell, I think, on that Widowmaker, which is something that Goblin like to do. I think it's going to be very interesting how Goblin and Maxwell kind of gel is going to be the word I want to pick for this.
I mean, they're both very capable players,
Yes.
otherwise they wouldn't be on the Boise State team, so I'm sure that they can work something out, because part of being on a team is learning how to gel with other people.
Yeah.
So I truly do believe in both of them, and while we don't know what Maxwell plays, we do know what Goblin plays, and
Yeah.
he plays a lot more than just Widow.
Yeah, and that's going to be my question to you. I mean, we see the Torbjorn. We see it in this clip right here. He absolutely, it almost feels like if Doc lets him, he'll pick the Torbjorn. But I know at the end of the season in the spring, he was kind of falling in love with Reaper a lot. He was a big Reaper fan. Heroes, like we said, we don't really know what Maxwell wants to play. We've just seen here from these clips. What heroes can Maxwell pick that would complement a Torb or a backline Reaper as Goblin likes to play it?
I think the May is honestly a really, really good pick because she's just solid in general, because she's a control hero. And especially if you're coming through places like we were just talking about Hollywood, right? Where there's only a certain amount of ways they can come at you, right?
Yeah.
May is super effective on that. Not as effective as she would be on King's Row, which is what we just saw her on, but still very effective because they only have like 3 points of entry into the point, and 2 of them May can completely shut down a push. She can't really do anything if they decide to pop over the wall, but other than that, a solo May can pretty well stop somebody first point Hollywood.
Yeah, Boise State was absolutely on fire. I think they 3-0'd Irvine Valley here, so they are already in mid-season form. I don't expect that to be much of an issue, but it is going to be, I feel like it's fair to say there'll be some growing pains for new roles, adjusting to playing with Goblin, which maybe you're used to it if you play a lot of solo queue, as you said, with all the love and affection that we can.
Yes, Goblin is truly great. He is my favorite person to cast. Even talking with him outside of cast is amazing because he's just such a cool person behind the screen as well.
Oh, yeah.
So even if we do poke a little bit of fun at him on the cast, he always seems very cool with it, and that is absolutely amazing. But, I this is also definitely the time to have the growing pains.
100%.
Because, I mean, I don't ever want to see a Boise State loss because I wouldn't be here casting if I wasn't a hardcore Boise State fan. But this would definitely be the time where losses are acceptable, so we can kind of switch people. So, like, we can kind of get our subs in getting plays. We can get all of that sort of stuff. But we can also try to figure out what we're doing with our main roster moving forward, too. So this is definitely the game and the time for experimentation.
I mean, obviously, what we say, it's activation week, so, I mean, there's no real penalty here for losing because it's just going to help you get seated in a more appropriate level, though I think for Boise State Overwatch, I don't think that applies because they're already playing at some of the highest level. You see here on the screen, here is the roster for Boise State, as we said, in Game 1. It will change a little bit for our second match of the night, but Plato and Cal on the tank, Goblin and Maxwell on the DPS, and Large Bagel and Nerdy Bird will be in the support role. And for St. Clair, we've got Apostle, Cheesy, Kale, Bayable, 9, and AR Junk. So very curious to see what St. Clair wants to do. St. Clair is a team that we have heard a lot of. I know Doc has a lot of respect for that program. So I'm expecting some high-level Overwatch, but I also think, we talked about, and we even talked about this before the show, there's going to be some gamesmanship, if you will, because Boise State's got a very high-level tournament coming up in Hugh Fest in a couple of weeks. The NECC regular season kicks off in a couple of weeks. You don't want to just blow some 100% win rate strat on DePaul in a preseason game. So I think we're going to get some gamesmanship of, maybe we prefer Plato on Ryan here, but let's see what Plato can do on a Winston or what Plato can do on something else. So I would expect it to be a little more free-flowing here tonight.
Absolutely, and Boise State is not going to be the only team that's going to be doing free-flowing things, especially at this point in the season. That is basically the expectation for everyone there.
Yeah, and I think – no, go ahead.
So nobody is necessarily going to be on things that they are 100% win rate all the time.
Yeah.
They're going to be doing things that they can kind of do whatever they want. Maybe something they don't get to play as much, but that they're still relatively confident that they can win with in this early season here. It's just much more free than later in the competitions can be, because later in the competitions you kind of get set in a certain role, in a certain character, like
certain comp for certain
if somebody's like, it's King's Row, you're like, well, I have to go Reinhardt 100%. But right now in the preseason, you could just play ball if you're good enough at ball. I mean, honestly, you can just kind of do whatever it is that you want. There's not a lot of that pressure to be a certain hero or play a certain way, which I think is really enjoyable for those Overwatch players. I mean, that's true at lower levels of play, but it becomes especially more true the higher up you go, where those expectations are more and more forced on you. So I actually think this is just going to be a really, really fun series of games for everybody involved.
I do want to say, I mean, big shout out, prayers up to the NECC for not picking Kings Row tonight. That is absolutely fantastic for Boise State and St. Clair, and I'm sure UC Santa Cruz, because, I mean, it's been, 4 months since we've cast Overwatch, D'Angelo, and I still don't want to see Kings Row. So, I mean, big shout out. Thank you, NECC. All the praise in the world for forcing everyone to play Hollywood tonight on the hybrid slot, because, I mean, huge shout out to them. Now, I do think as we wait to get in game, it looks like Boise State was all in the ready to go there in this game, just waiting for St. Clair to kick off things here about 7:15. I think the one thing that's kind of been on everyone's mind and that, we can give a little attention to now as we wait for this game, D'Angelo, is the potential upcoming Overwatch 2 bonanza, maybe the right word?
Oh, because there's enough content for there to be a bonanza?
Well, I mean, we're getting a whole new game. We're apparently moving to 5v5. We're getting rid of a tank. We're rebalancing everything. I mean, I'm just very curious. As you're someone who's played Overwatch at a high level, or much higher level than me, for a long time. What are your expectations for a game like Overwatch 2? I mean, what is it going to do to Overwatch as a brand?
So, Blizzard and Overwatch are really struggling with their brand right now.
Yes.
And I don't think Overwatch 2 is going to be the savior that they would like it to be, because it's just not ready to be that. They are so everything that they've done for Overwatch 2, they have been setting expectations much higher than they were able to deliver on. Like our first big look at Overwatch 2, they said it was going to be like a functional game, that there was going to be a lot there, and there just was not.
Well, Blizzard and functional game is a word that never goes together.
Savage
I play a lot of Blizzard games. I feel like they have taken a ton of my money. And I mean, so let's go over what we've heard. We're getting rid of Assault, right, for cart pushing. I believe is what they've promised us. Maybe we'll get new heroes. Maybe we won't.
People are still waiting for Sojourn, so I would be willing to bet that we are definitely going to get some new heroes.
The leakers have told us that McCree, a.k.a. Unnamed Shooty Cowboy, has lost his stun for Overwatch 2. It is. He still will have it tonight. I'm just very concerned that, as you said, it's not going to be the savior Blizzard needs it to be.
It's not going to be the savior that Blizzard needs it to be if it continues on this trajectory, right? Yep. That's just an objective fact. Like, that's just what's going to happen. They're going to have to put some serious work and some serious time in, because that is something that Blizzard does not seem to understand with this whole idea that they're going to have the Overwatch League function on Overwatch 2 by next year. That is completely unrealistic and unfair, not only to the Overwatch League players, but also to their game developers. And I specifically want to draw attention to the fact that what the game developers are working with right now, it's not a lot. And so having it ready for competitive play, they're going to have to do some serious overtime, some serious crunching. And, like, that's not cool. That's something a lot of video game companies do. That just seems to be the expectation in the games industry, and that's not cool. That's not okay. So they definitely need to give it time to become something better.
Yeah, I mean, you said about time. Like you said, April 2022, we've been told by sources that Overwatch League will be playing on Overwatch 2. Again, it's Fisher D'Angelo. We're waiting for Boise State and St. Clair to kick off on Overwatch 1 in the NECC activation week. It looks like Boise State is ready in lobby. We were just waiting on St. Clair to show up. So while we do that, of course, we're just talking about the future of Overwatch. I mean, we get a new map, a free-for-all map, of course. So, I mean, there is that. But, yeah, no, I think Overwatch 2, and I've been talking to some people in Boise State production who, we've watched Overwatch League in the past. We've kind of been like, it is what it is. I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on Overwatch League in April 2022. If it truly is first time Overwatch 2, early alpha, early beta, late beta, we don't really know. We've just heard, like, hey, I've been told Overwatch 2 going live with Overwatch League. I think this might be the most watched Overwatch League cast ever in a few months.
And that might beat their goal, but negative attention is not what you're looking for, and negative attention is what they're going to get if they release an alpha game for competitive play.
Well, people would tell you Blizzard games are all alpha games.
Okay, but, like, more.
Yeah, no.
Everything they're getting now about games that are unbalanced and games that haven't had enough time spent on them, all of those complaints that may or may not be valid, it's going to be much worse with a game that is actually, truly, in no sense of the word, ready.
Yeah, I think, no, I'll be honest. I'm the person who's watching for something absolutely crazy to go on. Like 6 Genji somehow appear, or you can double lock Genji. Like, I am watching for that. That is what I will be watching for, but that's not till April. We'll put aside our I feel like you might have a hatred for Blizzard. I just have a criticism of Blizzard as a longtime customer for now, because, like I said, we're just waiting for Boise State Overwatch to get going here. And while we have some time, D'Angelo, we mentioned we won't see Boise State's newest player in the support role in our first game. We'll see them in our second game. We will have Chosen coming in. You're a support player. You play for Boise State as a support player. How do you – I mean, it feels like, I'll be honest. I'll be that one DPS player who actually acknowledges you guys besides just heal me. What is the most important thing you're watching for in Boise State in that support role for Chosen, who is their new support, who we'll see later tonight?
Oh, I'm sure he absolutely does this amazingly. But the single most important thing for a support player is to not die.
Yeah.
If you are first dead, you are not playing support right. Like, truly. If you are the first person dead repeatedly, because even at incredibly high levels of play, mistakes still happen.
Yep.
So it's okay if, like, once a game you get picked first and you're like, oh, geez, oh, man, that's not what I was looking for. I didn't do my job that fight. Okay.
Yep.
But if you get picked first every fight, both as a main support or as an off support, it's terrible, and you probably should not. If you are in a game that is this high level and you are getting picked first every fight, this is probably not the game for you. Like, this is probably not the game that you should be subbed into or out of. But it is the preseason, so I do imagine that we will see quite a bit of that.
Can you bring that TED Talk to my ranked games? Because I feel like my supports could use that a little bit here. But like I said, we were waiting for Boise State and St. Clair to kick off here in the NECC. We are going to go to a quick break. Just because it's a preseason doesn't mean there's high stakes. We got a ton of fast-paced and exciting Overwatch. It's all coming up after this.
Visit NationalGuard.com to begin your Guard adventure.
The news says Gen Z is struggling. I've got news for them.
I wait tables, but last week I built a field hospital.
I put out a forest fire.
I stopped 1,000 attackers.
And a natural disaster.
I've saved lives.
And led a team on patrol.
I serve.
Well, I go to school full-time.
While I work full-time.
The greater the challenge, the stronger we become.
On like Control, Li Zhang.
Visit NationalGuard.com to begin your Guard adventure.
The news says Gen Z is struggling. I've got news for them.
I wait tables, but last week I built a field hospital.
I put out a forest fire.
I stopped 1,000 attackers.
And a natural disaster.
I've saved lives.
And led a team on patrol.
I serve.
Well, I go to school full-time.
While I work full-time.
The greater the challenge, the stronger we become.
Point, if you get stopped,
figure them out a little bit more, and Boise State, in terms of their resources, are going to be looking very pretty right now. Basically, all 6 of their ultimates coming online, but Bamsher and Smoked also having theirs online. It'll be interesting to see who presses that ultimate button first. It is going to be Chosen first as well. Blue bomb being thrown out, and look at that pulse bomb being swallowed up by Kel as well. And a blue bomb to Smoked as well is going to put Boise State well within range here, still keeping the point and only spending 2 of their ultimates.
Yeah, Boise played that phenomenally, only committing the Coalescence and the EMP to that fight, whereas Irvine Valley committed all 4 of the ults that they had. And now we're going to see it change off that Tracer into the McCree, with now Lynn taking over the Tracer, getting off that Echo with that duplicate, not getting as much value as he wanted, playing that for the duplicate for the Winston. And now going into this next fight, we're going to see Cats able to get an early elimination onto Marshall, but then Hobbs going to come out with the Death Blossom onto Cats and able to get that trade immediately. And now with the 99% and the Diva trying to save her own life from that ulting Winston is able to get it, but now with the Diva Bomb coming out, able to take out Banisher on that Moira and Gob taking out Ping. Irvine Valley has no healers as they're having to stall the point the best they can, with only the Winston and the Tracer able to keep it alive. Tracer's gonna have to commit the Pulse Bomb and is able to get none with it, with Large able to get another boob kill, and Boise State finishes out strong, a clean 100-0 sweep.
Wow, that is definitely how the Broncos wanted to start out, as we are going to be going into the second map of the night. Boise State versus Irvine Valley again. Looks like we are, I think this is Night Market. Yes, it is.
Yeah, so going to this Night Market will be fantastic. Maybe, like you mentioned, a Symmetra play, as we see some of the team comps changing, with Winston now being swapped into the Rhyme for Plato. So it looks like they might go for more of a stronger hold on point and not as aggressive, because that was such a strong showing for the first game of Boise. Very dominant, let them contest point for a little bit, but they never even got 1%. So going into this next match, I'm curious what Irvine might change on their comp, sticking with the Diva. They will have Ryan as well. And there's the Symmetra play from both sides. You called it, Jem, as we see the Ryan stunt back and forth. Plato being kept alive by Chosen with that mortality barrier. Great team plays already. We're seeing Boise cleaning up shop, with Irvine Valley just getting rolled over. Boise State having that amazing showing that we wanted from this first map against Irvine Valley.
And this is really kind of a great Boise State team composition. If you are looking overall at how the teams are laid out, we have Plato, Kel, and a Large Bagel. Definitely, as we were saying, some Boise State veterans, but the other 3, we had Gob, Chosen, and Maxwell, all recently new additions. So it's kind of split evenly between the new and the old, and they are certainly at peak performance right now. As we get back into this map, Boise State is having the point first. Charge is starting to go up for them, but look at Kel, almost available, almost has that Diva Bomb available right now. That's going to be the first ultimate online. Actually, no, it was, excuse me, the Remake. He was able to charge that up. No eliminations coming from that Remake thus far, but Irvine Valley trying to push through the choke point right now. The Plato's just going to slam right into their Reinhardt. Kel also picking up Cats as well. Boise State up 2 in this overall engagement, and they are just pushing and making space for themselves, not allowing Irvine Valley to get one single successful attack.
Yeah, Boise State getting really cheeky, even teleporting into their spawn area, going as aggressive as they can. Gob does finally end up falling, but you can see that amazing target recognition from Boise State, immediately collapsing on their Reinhardt, losing their front lane, and just pushing as hard as they can. We did see the Lucio able to speed out, with Diva able to eat that Flame Strike, and we're going to see Chosen throw down his Amplification Matrix to try to hold off Irvine Valley the best he can, with only 50% on the board. Now 60 for Boise State. They're having a solid hold, but now on the side of Irvine Valley, we're going to see a couple ults come online for them, with Blizzard and now the Wall coming out for Boise State. They're definitely having a dominant showing, and now the Deadeye is able to pick up Plato after he shatters 3 members, but now Drop the Beat is going to come out from Irvine Valley. We're going to see the double teleport going back and forth, no kills with the Diva Bomb, and now Irvine Valley's on point. It looks like they might be trickling in because they are losing members all around. This is definitely a solid showing for Irvine Valley.
It looks like that's going to be their first take of the season. Boise State is still trying to fight it out. Large Bagel trying to be the player with the Lucio, and the shatter is going to come right onto Plato. Stop Boise State's presence. Kel is trying to keep it going, and I don't blame Boise State right now as they actually are able to take back the point. Now here comes Irvine Valley. Boise State has managed to stretch this out to 99 as Chosen is able to take out that immortality field. Kel also getting the pick onto King, but Lean also with a punch right to Kel's face is going to keep Irvine Valley's presence on the field, well known as the photon barrier, and beat from Lucio is going to come out. Boise State managed to drag it out and get the first victory on Legion. I thought for sure they were going to reset there, but some great play by a Large Bagel with that Lucio on the point. Definitely coming in handy for Boise State.
Yeah, a great showing from both sides. Irvine Valley did their best, and they even almost got a lot of members of Boise State off, but both a Large Bagel and Plato were able to hold them off just long enough for Kel to show up. The tank plays coming out from Boise State were fantastic, and the first round going to Boise State. Hopefully we see a strong comeback from Irvine in this next coming game.
Well, with a new season, we always get new sponsors, and we want to welcome one of our newest sponsors, Drop-In Gaming, and they are the premier online platform for gamers who seek competition. Play your favorite games to win cash and prizes through free and paid entry matches and tournaments. Whether you are new to the scene or a seasoned veteran, Drop-In Gaming has the right games and competition for you. To begin your competitive gaming journey, sign up at dropingaming.com. And it's always great to highlight companies that want to support us, especially local companies, as I have heard that Drop-In Gaming is a local company to the Treasure Valley. So always nice to support local business. One thing I am really great to see is I kind of mentioned the ability for the D.Va to still have the remech pick ability, but also in terms of D.Va, we have seen that defensive matrix come in clutch as 2 ultimates overall in that round were swallowed up by it, which is something that, you know, is kind of notorious that the defensive matrix can do, but we don't see it as often as you think we would. But in that first match, wow, 2 of them negated by it.
Yeah, once again, just fantastic plays coming out from these tank players. They call it the target recognition. We see the collapse on the Reinhardt, and as you mentioned, the D.Va eating ults. They have that game awareness that they're able to say, all right, this person will most likely have their ult up. D.Va get in their face and have the defense matrix ready. We still saw a couple of kills coming out from Irvine Valley's McCree with the Deadeye, so there's still can't protect everything, especially with how the defense matrix has been nerfed over the years, but still fantastic plays from the tanks. They're definitely going to be some people to watch tonight.
Well, Irvine Valley is going to have second choice of the maps to play on right now. It looks like they are ready to go into Kings Row, which, surprise, surprise, just getting back into true form. But Boise State had kind of an interesting strategy with Kings Row in that, you know, they wouldn't defend on the point. They would, on the ledges behind the point, they would defend first and then collapse onto the point once they got a few picks. Is that still a strategy that Boise State is looking to carry over into this new semester?
We could see it come back with the new player swaps out. We don't know if they got accustomed to it, because that was definitely the old team strat, because that's what they knew how to do with the Torb, the Hanzo, the Orisa, and the D.Va going in and out from those ledges. So it would definitely be interesting to see if they pull it off or bring in something of their own to say, hey, we're a new team, we have new players, let's try something new here. And with depending if they're attacking and defending, we could also see a Statue of Liberty play coming in here, because that's everyone's favorite of just, we're all in Symmetra Bastion, protect him, burn him down, we're going to get the point in a clean sweep. And so far, it seems like Boise State could do it with them having such a dominant force in that first game.
Well, will they pull off a cheeky play like that, or will they just continue on their run of winning? We will find out after this break. We will be back with Kings Row and Map 2 in this match, Boise State versus Irvine Valley. You're not going to want to miss it.
Visit NationalGuard.com to begin your guard adventure.
The news says Gen Z is struggling. I've got news for them.
I wait tables, but last week I built a field hospital.
I put out a forest fire.
I stopped 1,000 attackers.
And a natural disaster.
I've saved lives.
And led a team on patrol.
I serve.
Well, I go to school full time.
While I work full time.
The greater the challenge, the stronger we become.
Welcome back to the Boise State Game Pants Esports Arena. You're watching our coverage of NECC Collegiate Overwatch, and we saw Boise State get a win on Legion Tower, the first match of the night in this overall best of 5. And now we are ready to head on into hybrid. And Kings Row, surprise, surprise, we see Boise State on the stage there, getting ready to fight. Doc giving them sage advice as always. And I am still on the desk calling all the action. Jem joined by Brenner Bear on the stage here. And Brenner, we have been talking about Boise State's overall great performance in the first game, but what do you think overall as their competitor Irvine Valley is in this first game? What do you think their best strengths are, and how can they use those to get a win in Kings Row?
Yeah, we saw both their DPSs actually performing quite well with, as I mentioned in the past, the Deadeye kills. What we hopefully need to see from them is more protection around their tanks, as Boise State was able to get that target recognition and dive right on top of them. And hopefully after that first match, they're able to collect themselves and say, hey, this is what Boise State did. Let's start countering that and see how we can learn from them and become better with this first game of the season. So I definitely hope we see their adaptability come through.
Now as we load into the match right now, Boise State was overall won in this best of 5. I don't know if we will necessarily see, we were suggesting before the break that we could see kind of a Statue of Liberty as we are focusing on the statue right now. But right now as both teams get ready, well, it looks like the Diva might be trying to take the place of the Bastion in this particular incident. But overall, teams having some fun as they're getting ready to start.
Yeah, heading over to the team comps, we are seeing the Hanzo here, so they could be going for the up top strat, as we already saw the Diva as well. And with Irvine Valley coming out, we are going to see a Doomfist with the Rhine, Diva, the Mei, as well as the Bap and Lucio. We're going to see a great wall coming out from the side of Boise State, separating out 3 of the members, but Doomfist going all in on the back line. We're already going to see the Ice Bolt coming out from the side of Mei. She's not going to have that utility with now, so it looks like Boise State's on the red side this time, my fault. And Lynn able to get an early elimination onto the Mei, but Gob on the Doomfist is able to get a 2-piece in the back line onto Cajun and King, with Plato picking up 1 more onto the Diva, and Chosen able to take out Lynn, with Gob then finishing up on Bambisher. It looks like they're definitely going for that clean sweep here.
Oh! And a screech emerges from the stage as Gob just pushes up a little bit too far. And that could actually be Irvine Valley's opportunity here. Gob has respawned now. Is going to have that Meteor Strike. Just recently buffed and increases the ability recharge rate by 100% when it is activated. It kind of reminds me almost in kind of like Deadeye, you know, it has its primary function, but sometimes you just see people using it to just quickly get a new reload there. So it just has that kind of added benefit now of knowing that when you're out of that Meteor Strike, you can set up all your combos again instantly.
Yeah, and both Plato and Gob have their ults up, so going into this next fight, it could easily sway in Boise State's favor if they're able to get down that shield, get the shatter off, and then able to combo it with the Meteor Strike, or Gob just goes all in, able to take out the 2 healers before the Immortality field comes up. And as we jump right back into the action, we're going to see that shatter come out and land on no members of Irvine Valley with Boise State trying to secure a single kill, and they're finally able to get Cajun. As I mentioned, that target priority onto the Reinhardt is so key here, able to take out their front line. It's some of the basics, as I mentioned, that you want to see from both teams. And Boise State pushing forward, getting as many kills as they can, with Lin on the Hanzo out by himself, getting taken out by Chosen no less, and finally someone gets back on the card to continue pushing it.
Boise State is trying to make some space for themselves. Only one member hangs back on that payload, just maybe trying to get a stagger here or there, but of course they don't want to go too far up, as Gob found out very painfully as soon as Boise State took the first point. But now, here we go into the next engagement. Boise State is sitting with only one ultimate, and they're going to use it as Lin gets an early pick onto Gob. It's going to be evened up by a large bagel, as we also see the Blizzard is being eaten there by Smoke, so Maxwell's Blizzard isn't going to do anything right now, but a large bagel coming in clutch, one of the strongest supports that we see in the collegiate scene, getting a double for Boise State, but the Diva Bomb is going to take him out now that he's out of the picture. Plato is instead going to step up, getting a double. Boise State managing to answer back basically any sort of elimination that Irvine Valley gets. They're able to answer them back, it seems, 2 for 1.
Yeah, at the start of the fight, we saw a great opening from Irvine Valley with the Blizzard and the Dragon, but then on the side of Boise State, we see Chosen threat in that Immortality field, and it keeps Plato alive the entire time through that Dragon and the Blizzard. Boise State had that team play down. They knew what to do and what to counter. We're going to see the Dragons come out again, but it's immediately eaten by Kel. This Diva is out for your ult, and she's going to eat them all. We see the shadow come out, but it is blocked. Back in 4th place, Boise State is on their top game, showing a strong opener. We're going to see the Amplification Matrix come out, and it looks like it's not going to be able to secure a kill, with Cats finally able to trade with a large bagel. Back and forth, Cats able to take out Gob. It looks like Cat.
Welcome back into the Boise State Game Pants Esports Arena. Boise State Overwatch ready now to kick off their NECC season tonight. Activation week for the NECC, which like a preseason, but there are some small stakes on the line. Going to help teams be seeded into appropriate groups and divisions. You can see the players up on stage. They are ready to go. I am Michael Fisher, joined by Colby D'Angelo Alloway to call all of the action. It's Boise State and St. Clair. D'Angelo, Boise has a new roster, but there's one thing that, you know, we kind of heard while we were in that break. St. Clair's actually coming out of a game, so they're going to be pretty warmed up and ready to go, while Boise State's just kind of been waiting on stage. So maybe St. Clair comes out a little stronger just because they literally just got done against another team.
I don't know what you're talking about. Boise State is super warm. They're up there playing browser games. That is peak Overwatch warm-up right there. I think Boise State is going to come out swinging, and it's going to be beautiful, Fish. 100-0. All around. Let's go.
Well, speaking of swinging, somebody who's probably going to be doing a lot of swinging is going to be Plato on now, potentially Reinhardt. He's been moved to main tank. As we said, it's Boise State and St. Clair. If we're getting right into the game, we're going to go right into Nepal in the NECC. We'll play all 3 maps, Nepal, Hollywood, Havana. But quickly, talk about what we expect from Plato now on that main tank. We've seen it a little bit, but not all that much. As we see the rules here, 3 rounds, control, hybrid, escort, as we mentioned. Nepal, Hollywood, Havana. Everything's predetermined. Loser will pick side for the next round, so we'll get to that. We get to Hollywood. But D'Angelo, your expectations for Plato on that Reinhardt role?
Well, Plato was already a god-tier DPS, so now he has more health. So I absolutely think that the enemies of Boise State should be terrified of Plato charging into their enemy team as Big Hammer Man with a shield.
That is the best way I've ever heard DPS described, or tank described. Here's a DPS with more health.
With more health. And I do think that is, to some extent, what we're going to see.
Yeah.
Because especially on Reinhardt, you need to balance aggression with protecting your team, right?
Yep.
And usually there are Reinhardts that have one problem or the other. They're either too passive or too aggressive. I think Plato is probably going to lean on the side of too aggressive.
Yep.
But with a team like Boise State, I think that would be the side that you want to err more to.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there is nothing worse than when you need to push your Reinhardt being behind everybody else. So like the last person to push. There is nothing worse than that.
Yep.
And so Plato has the game sense not to like hard in most of the time.
True.
But I think it's going to be a beautiful thing. Like that new Venom movie coming out. There will be carnage. Plato, there will be carnage.
Yeah, we just don't know who's going to have the carnage. 'Cause I think you're totally right. For Boise State, you want to lean on being more aggressive on your Reinhardt, but there is a point where you could get too. I think maybe worse than having your Reinhardt behind you is having your Reinhardt look like he's playing for the other team. And you're like, what, Reinhardt? Why are you?
Reinhardt, why are you in their spawn?
Why are you down there in their spawn? Well, we do get to Doc's keys in Overwatch before we kick off our first map. Never take a fair fight, which means take fights in unexpected places when they are unprepared and when you can have ability advantages. This is all brought to you by Count's Identity Trust Global Network, which delivers real-time fraud prevention, account protection, enables a personalized customer experience for more than 9,000 leading brands and payment providers. Quick and accurate identity trust decisions, delivers safe payment, account creation, and login events for reducing digital fraud. If you want to stay safe online, go check them out at count.com, KOUNT.com. It's Boise State and St. Clair getting ready to kick off Activation Week here in the NECC. Boise State and St. Clair also trying to just warm up for the season. As I said, we will play Nepal, we will play Hollywood, and we will play Havana. There's not going to be any sort of loser choice for maps, but you do get map or side pick, which I think will be interesting on Hollywood. Maybe you want to change it up. I think what you and I talked about at the Open, we both prefer defending, but maybe this is a time to see, maybe we just want to go for attack first. But Nepal, I mean, talk to us a little bit about what to expect on Nepal and what we should be looking for Boise State here with some new faces or old faces in new roles.
Well, first of all, Nepal is mirrored, so it doesn't really matter whether you're the attacker or the defender, which is why we start with control. Very obvious.
Yes.
However, I do think that you did mention growing pains earlier, Fish, and I do think that there will be a little bit of that. I also think there is literally no better time than those growing pains to happen.
Yeah.
I also don't necessarily think they're going to be that extreme because when you get picked for a team like Boise State, you are already a high-level player in a team game, right? Yep. And when you're a high-level player in a team game, you know how to play as a team. So I do expect there will be people not necessarily knowing all the time what everybody's going to do, but I do think that is something that will be worked out relatively quickly because everybody here is here because they're willing to work together.
No, I 100% agree, but I mean, we talked about it. The names to watch out for: Plato on that tank, we've seen him before.
It's going to be beautiful.
Maxwell on that DPS. He is new for Boise State this semester, slotting into that DPS role. We will probably see a ton of him. Everyone else, names you should be familiar with. We'll get Kel in the off tank. We'll get Goblin doing what Goblin does in the DPS role somewhere on the map, and we'll have Nerdy and a large bagel in that support role for this game. Cannot wait to see how the Broncos come out here on Nepal. It's a map that, if I remember correctly, in the spring, wasn't their favorite control map, but it was kind of their like sleeper, we want to sneak up on somebody map. So they definitely loved this map last semester. Will they love it this semester? We are about to find out as the teams get ready to meet in the middle. We hear that Reinhardt swinging his hammer around. We got Reinhardt Diva on both sides. You get that Goblin on that Symmetra. Did not see a teleporter come out as St. Clair in the red trying to push onto the point. Maywall does go down from Cheesy. Gonna block the team. Shield for Plato at half. Has to wait for it to regen. St. Clair has not got any pressure. You see the health bars for Boise State. Nice and healthy. 9 gets already forced to bring out that immortality field. That is a huge cooldown for Boise State. See if they can punish them as they all get taken low. Stun goes on to Plato. Boise State's immortality field comes out. Maxwell gets the first elimination of the night onto Apostle. We do see Photon Barrier already goes down. Kel loses the mech of Maywall just to break some damage. It also cuts off the window from St. Clair as we trade back and forth. Maxwell barely holding on, but it looks like Boise State should win this first fight.
9 was the first death, and we talked about that before the entire thing started. He did get his ultimate first, but because he went so aggressive to push, he got in front of his Reinhardt, and he got eliminated. And when your main healer's down, that fight is over. We also had a sim wall to completely negate the window, which was also extra helpful, but Baptiste is definitely not the first person you want to lose. So amazing job on Maxwell there. 9 was probably out of position too.
See what St. Clair wants to do. There's the window for Boise State, and a huge Plato pick there on to 9. The shatter not going to leave too much to be desired though, as Apostle just goes off the edge, and that was a great window into a flame strike for Boise State.
Strike is Plato's ultimate, not Earth Shatter. I don't know what you're talking about, Fish. Absolutely. That was perfect ultimate execution by Plato there. It was absolutely amazing. And again, we saw 9 there kind of cut out in the way of the window. That wasn't necessarily 9's fault, though, because, I mean, you want to move in your group, right? But they weren't prepared for that window, and their D.Va didn't eat the bomb, so they lost 2 and lost the fight.
A-wall goes down. Blizzard as well from Cheesy. It's going to get a freeze onto a large bagel in Plato. They forced out the immortality field, and Boise State will lose 2. Great sound barrier from AR Junk there. Nerdy tries to answer with their own, but you can see the health bars for Boise State just falling apart. Great job by St. Clair. They caught out the main tank in Plato, and we talked about you'll have some growing pains, and Boise State's going to lose their first fight.
If we were going to sound barrier there, we should have sound barrier to save Reinhardt and Baptiste, not after the fight was already lost, because we were talking about losing a main healer and losing the fight, but your main tank is your other person that if you lose, you'll lose the fight, and especially losing both of them at the same time. Nerdy Bird just wasted the sound barrier, which is kind of unfortunate because they are walking into window high noon, so they have to be careful and a lot of pressure on Kel to eat that.
There's that window you were talking about. They get through, so the high noon actually can't apply any pressure. Plato does get taken out. Immortality field comes down and a photon barrier from Goblin, but it's not in time. Kel's trying to run away at low health, and Boise State, they got the window out. I don't think too much happened. They just took way too much damage getting onto point as Maxwell gets an exit frag there. And actually, Boise State, they want to keep the fight going. Maxwell's going to drop his own Deadeye. Bailable's going to try and answer with his own. And in classic McCree fashion, not a single kill is picked up by that ultimate. As there's Cal's with a double kill with the D.Va bomb. Kel tried to use his own, not able to find anything. Boise State just bleeding members, and it feels like the Angela probably should have gone for a reset the first time.
They definitely, once Plato was back, they tried to get in that fight there. They thought that the single kill from Maxwell was going to be enough, and it absolutely was not, as we're seeing.
Boise State's have actually picked up a double kill with a large bagel. I don't really know that we talked, this is a preseason D'Angelo, because we really didn't get a clean reset. Somehow Boise State just kind of came out on top because people just kept dying.
And I'm absolutely, completely 100% positive that Boise State is like, oh yeah, we shouldn't necessarily be in this position that we're in, but you know, we're going to roll with it. And they forced St. Clair to the point where they have to just throw their bodies to touch, so that's nice.
Final fight, there's a shadow does come out. Actually, it was a stun from McCree. My apologies. As Nerdy throws down the sound barrier. There is the shatter, but it goes out as Plato gets taken out. Immortality field does come down. There's a Deadeye from Bailable, able to pick up 1. Maxwell trying to do what he can. Pops the Deadeye just for the reload. Has to run away at 11 HP. Should be able to heal back up to full, but St. Clair flips it. Now Boise State's in last fight.
I'm honestly, Maxwell's life flashed before my eyes there. That was absolutely, and we did see Nerdy Bird pull the ultimate Lucio dishonor on our Junk there, which was to boop kill. It wasn't necessarily off the map, but we did see that boop kill come up. I didn't see if she completely booped him off the edge or not, but.
Oh no, we talked about it. Your supports can't die first. Boise State's gonna lose a support and their main tank. AR Junk throws out the sound barrier just for good measure, and St. Clair, everything kind of just got weird on that map when it felt like Boise State was resetting, and then they didn't, and they got a double kill, and they flipped the point, but really a great job by St. Clair kind of rallying in that final fight of their own and forcing Boise State off.
They definitely got the eliminations onto Plato, particularly when it mattered. So basically every time Plato went to Shatter, he either didn't get the value out of it or Plato just got eliminated out of the Shatter, and that is something that St. Clair is doing very intentionally and something that Plato needs to be incredibly careful of. More so than a Reinhardt already needs to be careful of using their ult, but St. Clair is specifically waiting for him to do that to target him. So he needs to be very careful. And a large bagel did get picked first last fight, but with Plato getting eliminated right after, it probably wouldn't have made much of a difference whether or not a large bagel got picked there.
Looks like Boise State's going to come out with the exact same comp. We did see that Symmetra teleporter to get them right on top of St. Clair. Great double stun does land from Maxwell. Boise State's not able to make anything happen from it. There's a great teleport. They completely catch St. Clair off guard. A double kill to start. The immortality field's not saving anybody. They send them back to spawn and pick up 5.
Fantastic Boise State play there by Goblin on the Symmetra. That was amazing. They were not ready for it and got that immediate pick onto the Hanzo. And once you're up 2, you win the fight, especially if you're already inside of their team.
Yeah, we See that in the replay. Just a great teleport. They catch off both DPS for St. Clair. And they had no way to predict that was coming. Goblin looking in mid-season form. As Boise State waits for St. Clair, they're going to push around the backside of the point. There's another teleporter. Maywall's going to go down, kind of cut off some of that damage. Immortality Field keeps St. Clair alive. They do get 2 eliminations. Kel gets frozen. He's going to be taken out of the Met. Goblin going to go down as well. And that time, I think St. Clair kind of baited Boise State into an aggressive play.
I do think that Plato is being hyper-aggressive on the Reinhardt, which is exactly what we were expecting from Plato, because he did come to us as a DPS player, which is totally fair. But it is definitely hurting him and Boise State as a whole, because if your main tank is the first person to die 90% of the fights, you're going to lose 90% of your fights. And that is something Boise State needs to rectify within the next 75% here.
How about right now as we get a nice shatter, but it goes into an Immortality Field and an Ant Matrix. So Boise State ends up surviving through all of that. They take out 4 cows just out of the mech. Can they get the team wipe? Yes, they can. Yeah, how about that? We call him out. Plato immediately responds with the shatter into the Ant Matrix. I don't know if it's recommended, but it works.
Well, actually, the amplification matrix there was to get them to back off so that they did not murder Plato the second he went for his ultimate. So I do actually think that that was something intentionally planned. I think Plato realized that he was absolutely getting messed up every time he pressed Q. And, you know, it's hard to mess somebody up when you're staring down an amplification matrix. So that gave Plato the safety he needed to pull off that play.
The flank coming out from St. Clair. Boise State does have the sound barrier online in case things get too hairy. They also have that Diva Bomb and a Deadeye. Deadeye used from Maxwell, just trying to zone out, it looks like, but a Maywall going to cancel that one out from Cheesy. See Maxwell takes a shot into a wall. Bailable does have hits. We get another great teleport from Boise State. Here's the Deadeye from Bailable. Boise State's got to be careful. They get a 3-man shatter from Plato, canceling that all. So far, all they have to show for it, though, is the Diva mech. Finally, Diva gets taken out. Sound barrier from AR Junk comes out a little late. It's a great shatter from Apostle. Picks off Nerdy and leads to Plato's death as well. The 4-on-4, Kel and a large bagel get Boise State 2 more picks. The Blizzard comes off point. And right at 97%, St. Clair is able to flip it. And Boise State continuing the fight. We do have an Ant Matrix going down. A large bagel uses that to take out Reinhardt. There is the Photon barrier. These teams are all action right now, D'Angelo, but St. Clair coming out on top here as Boise State resets.
St. Clair managed to hide, but they got the amplification matrix out and picked Maxwell. Boise State does not know when to reset. That is definitely something that we are struggling with. And now that officially a large bagel has been eliminated, that fight is completely over and definitely needs to hard reset, which we should have done earlier, but...
Wow, that's a great job by Cheese. He does get taken out. I don't know if Goblin was expecting him. But that just delays it even more. I mean, this is, what, 20, 25% for free for St. Clair, because as we talked about, Boise State's just struggling to reset properly, it feels like.
That is absolutely something Boise State is struggling with. And on the back of that shatter that St. Clair put them in the position where they started staggering reset, I am confident Plato's questioning how his teammates got hit behind him, because there was some funky shield map geometry things going on there.
Oh, Deadeye with a great angle, but a 4-man shatter in return from Plato. Maxwell down for Apostle. Diva Bomb going to go out from Kale's, not going to find anything. Cheesy gets taken out. Mech immediately burned down for Diva. And they'll take them out as well. Available will fall. Boise State should be able to flip. They're almost in overtime. And St. Clair's going to probably get one last sort of scattered fight here as they respawn.
Maxwell was the price, and they need to eliminate Bad Baptiste right now.
Well,
Maxwell was the price, but they won the map, so I mean, there it is.
You just say worth it in all chat and move on. And this was a great angle by Bailable, being able to take out Maxwell, but Plato, it feels like, you know, we talked about him being aggressive at DPS. I feel like anytime Q's up for him, he's just launching it, hoping it lands.
Absolutely, and it did land in spectacular fashion when Bagel put down that Ant Matrix and gave him the safety that he needed. So, I mean, sometimes he misses everybody, but sometimes he team shatters. So it's very much the same situation as we talk about with Goblin a lot. It's 0 or 100, there is no in between. Very much the same thing, except on a main tank, which is usually a role that you want to be consistent, but I'm not here to judge.
I'm a big
Fish.
fan. I mean, we talk about it at Doc Skis all the time, never take a fair fight. We never know what's going to be a fair fight because we never know when Plato's going to throw out that shatter.
True.
As Boise State only swap they'll make as Maxwell's going to go from the McCree over to the May. Available is now on that Symmetra. Did not see the teleporter go down for St. Clair. So we'll have to keep an eye on that as St. Clair gets the point first. Great day wall from Cheesy. He's going to separate the team. Apostle, though, gets taken out. Fantastic, I think dual charge came out there. That's what stunned him. And Boise State takes down the main tank. Kales will fall as well. Goblin gets a kill, but Plato gets taken out. But when you have no tank for St. Clair, there's no one to protect your backline, and Boise State will make work of them in short order and should unlock the point first.
Let's talk about Maywalls in that fight for a second, because Maxwell's first Maywall was a good Maywall. It prevented St. Clair from running away, but Boise State didn't hard push into them. So it was actually Maxwell's second Maywall that got the elimination on their off tank that was more impactful than the first, though the first wasn't necessarily misplaced. And then we have St. Clair with the Cheesy Maywall that almost walled off the Baptiste. Cheesy was definitely trying to save a lost fight there and almost had it.
Great teleporter right back onto the point. Ant Matrix goes down from 9. Photon Barrier kind of cuts it off, but it's just on the wrong side there. But Cheesy and Available get taken out regardless. Boise State did use their own Ant Matrix. Plato gets pinned, but Goblin with the triple kill. Cals goes for the reset, and Boise State in complete command with some great teleporter usage.
That was absolutely amazing, and what's even more amazing than that, Fish, was that I could hear Plato yelling as he was pinned across the point from across the stadium, so that just really added to the whole immersion of this whole event. He like peeked outside, he's like, the fight is won, this is fine, but then he got pinned, and he was very upset about it. Ultimately, of very little consequence, but extremely amusing, Fish.
State does have to be careful. Apostle has that shatter, and he's landed a couple of good ones so far on the Broncos. Maywall goes up from Maxwell. Gonna get immediately blasted through. Each side has 3 ults. There's the Diva Bomb to start things off. AR Junk throws down the sound barrier. Blizzard will come out as well from Maxwell, and now Nerdy's gonna answer the sound barrier of their own. Boise State picks up 2 after a large bagel gets taken out. Photon Barrier from Available, not enough to save the team. And Boise State, we see Kel on a 10-player kill streak. Should be able to win this one, and it's going to put St. Clair in final fight with the shatter.
Kel's a Baby Diva main, as we saw there. Fantastic.
Great Blizzard here from Maxwell. Nobody can eat it. And I think AR Junk sound barrier, he never even got the shield. He took that much damage that quickly.
And we did also end up confirming the kill on the Baptiste because of the Blizzard. It wasn't confirmed in the Blizzard, but that Blizzard is the reason the Baptiste was in the position to be eliminated. So that was also very impactful from Maxwell.
Trade shatters. Boise State's going to lose Plato, and I think the shatters whipped on both ends. Goblin will put down a Photon Barrier. Doesn't quite cut the Ant Matrix in half, and without their main tank, as we've talked about, Boise State's just going to pretty much get wiped up here, and St. Clair will take over.
You know, if you're going to whiff a fight, so a large bagel, first of all, got a double kill against by himself.
Yeah.
So we should definitely take a second to acknowledge that just amazingness that just happened. But then also, if you're gonna clean wipe, I mean, best time to do that is 99-0, I suppose, if you're gonna completely just go off, because now they have the rest of the point to try to do something.
Yeah, Matrix goes down from a large bagel, only ult in the game right now. Cal's going to get his mech taken out. Nine's Immortality Field is on cooldown as well. St. Clair running on fumes defensively and immediately loses 3 members, including a tank available Canyon to get the Photon Barrier down. And this should be game for Boise State. A rough first map on Control. They get the team kill to wrap it up, and they'll win the first game of the series.
Cheesy's motivations were beyond my understanding in that last fight. Just kind of repeat peeking Kel on the Diva, because I definitely understand what Cheesy was initially trying to do, which was get the flank. But then he came face to face with Kel and kept trying to go for the flank. So at that point, I lost understanding of where he was coming from.
Plato picks up play of the game here, and we talked about swinging hammers. Who needs an ult when you can just get a 5-player kill streak just left-clicking repeatedly? So
Absolutely.
Absolutely phenomenal job there by Boise State and the Plato and the rest of the team. I mean, a little rough. I mean, I think the growing pains was the proper way to put it. I think resetting still a little iffy at best, but for the most part, I think Boise State recovered. And in a lot of those mirror matches, the Angels, they just were the better players, it felt like, because it was a lot of similar hero comps for both teams.
I do actually think that Growing Pains is not necessary because their biggest problem was not resetting, right? Yep. And so not necessary. I don't think Boise State is using full 100% brain power right now here because of those resets. And I don't think they have to. It's the preseason. I don't think anybody has to be completely honest. Nobody has to be at 100% their absolute S-tier gameplay. But I do not necessarily think that this is Growing Pains. I do think it's just kind of everybody is a bit less serious than they would normally be.
You know what, I can agree with that, but I think, hey, it's a preseason. It's a good time to learn. We're going to Hollywood next. I think we will be taking a very quick break, though. Let the players regenerate on stage. We'll be back with Hollywood. Remember, we'll play all 3 maps regardless of who wins this one in the NECC. Don't go anywhere. It's Hollywood, it's Boise State, St. Clair, and it's all coming up right after this short break.
Visit NationalGuard.com to begin your guard adventure.
The news says Gen Z is struggling. I've got news for them.
I wait tables, but last week I built a field hospital.
I put out a forest fire.
I stopped 1,000 attackers.
And a natural disaster.
I've saved lives. And led a team on patrol.
I serve.
Well, I go to school full-time.
While I work full-time.
The greater the challenge, the stronger we become.
Welcome back into the Boise State Game Pants Esports Arena. You're watching our coverage of NECC Collegiate Overwatch. It is activation week for Boise State and St. Clair. Boise State picking up the win on map 1 on Nepal. We will go to Hollywood next. As we talked about, it will be Nepal, Hollywood, Havana for both this matchup and our one coming up later tonight. Fish and D'Angelo here calling all of the action. So usually the losing team picks map. This time the losing team will pick side. I think you and I, D'Angelo, were pretty much in agreement. We fully expect St. Clair to pick defense first on Hollywood.
Because it's effectively the easier thing to do, especially on restarting. Especially when you get to defend first, you kind of have the advantage. And it's just, and I mean, you do end up having to play both, right?
Yeah.
But defending is just overall nicer, especially on a map where, again, as we mentioned before, there's only 3 ways that you can come on first point Hollywood. And then after that, things definitely open up for second point and third point. But if you can hold first point the entire time, that effectively just leaves your enemy with 3 options the whole game.
When we get right into it, we will have to confirm our suspicions. But we said it is preseason. Maybe if you're St. Clair, you want to go with attacking first. We are waiting to see. We saw Boise State, D'Angelo, pretty much on the same lineup. It was the Reinhardt, it was the Diva, it was the Symmetra, Maxwell changing between the McCree and May, and then we had the Lucio and the Baptiste. We expecting the same comp for Boise State, or does Hollywood maybe lean in a different direction here?
I do think we will see a lot of similar comps. We see the Symmetra and the spawn right there. I do think there is as I mentioned earlier, you could go the aerial route, especially attacking first point on Hollywood. You could do some sort of Far Mercy or Echo Mercy, which doesn't have as nice of a little combination of their names as Far Mercy does.
100% agree.
But objectively, it might be the better thing to do just because Echo's ultimate tends to get more value than a Far Barrage.
We kick it off. Yeah, we have we're going to go Ash Mercy, it looks like, here for Boise State. Never mind. We're actually going to switch back there to the Lucio as St. Clair predictably picks defending first. They immediately get pushed off. You can see the dynamite still ticking for Goblin. Ash, one of those heroes he picked up later in the semester and absolutely popping off on. Maxwell still on that May. High ground right now. Immediately cut off with a fantastic May wall. Dynamite doesn't quite land for Goblin. As we see available on that Torbjorn, and Cheesy, he's on the Echo. He's the first one picked off. Kel's got to be careful, saved by the Immortality Field. But now the mech is taken out. Nerdy dropping low. The first elimination for St. Clair will land on to Nerdy. Kel will follow in short order. 9 goes down, so it's a 4-on-4, but defenders getting sort of a respawn advantage here. Available turrets taken out. Boise State now all the way in the back in that cafe. We see Cheesy snuck back in, gets a great pick on to Goblin, and Boise State looks like they're in the firm of resetting.
Maxwell handed us that fight on a silver platter, and even here continues to eliminate Cheesy a second time. But because Kel and Nerdy Bird were caught out there, we lost that fight that we ultimately had the advantage in within the first couple seconds because Cheesy was out of position and Maxwell got an absolutely sick snipe.
Yeah, Boise State started up early. I thought as soon as Cheesy went down, that would be Boise State's fight to win. But as you mentioned, they tried.
And it should have been.
They tried to save Kel with the Immortality Field, just couldn't quite keep him alive. That is a defensive Maywall from Maxwell this time to at least get Boise State on the flank. Goblin trying to do as much damage as he can. You can see St. Clair nearing in on 2, almost 3 ultimates. Available, taken incredibly low. So is Kales. Both will survive though. 9 does have that Ant Matrix. Boise State's got to be careful. Maywall on top of the point gets immediately burned through. There's an Ant Matrix to Boise State. Transcendence comes out from AR Junk, but it's not in time to stay available or Apostle. Boise State's got some very low health bars, but Maxwell gets off the Blizzard just in time. Echo ult does come out onto the Diva, but Boise State just racking up kills in the kill feed as another 2 go down, and it looks like the Broncos the second time around win the fight with ease.
Kel was trying to redeem himself from getting caught out last fight there, so that was a nice job done by Kel there. He got first elimination and then bullied their Sigma until he was out. Though Goblin did get the official confirmed kill. And the highlight of this entire thing was that St. Clair effectively wasted their Echo ultimate because nothing came of it, and that is an incredibly high impact ultimate that you usually don't want to waste.
I think they also got little value out of the Transcendence as well, as Goblin is the first one taken out here. Boise State probably's got to go for a bit of a reset. Nerdy trying to duel against Cheesy and ends up winning that one. As we talk about ground power, I don't think ground Echo is a better choice either. Supercharge does come out on the high ground for Apostle and company for St. Clair. Boise State just going to retreat, line of sight that. Plato with a huge shatter, only going to land it onto 9, but he doesn't get picked off. Ant Matrix comes down from a large bagel, get the Molten Core in return from Available. Picks off Goblin, and before Maxwell now on that Hanzo gets an elimination, and Boise State just kind of slowly but surely just pushing this point.
Goblin was the price, and I have to wonder if Cheesy was maybe lagging or something, because towards the end of that very sad Lucio v Echo 1v1, Cheesy was just standing there in that hallway, and so I do have to wonder if something else was going on there. And then immediately after that, 9 was taken out, and then that fight was like extra lost for them.
Nerdy as we come back to real time. He's going to get out a 5-man sound barrier. Can we get a 6-man sound barrier? Available is the first one taken out. Boise State also burns their Immortality Field, but they do not have to worry as they're going to pick up everybody on the side of St. Clair. It's a team kill for Boise State, and they make it to that second point pretty quickly.
Maxwell carry? Question mark? Those last couple kills in the kill feed were 100% Maxwell there. Very good job. He's one of our new players this semester, and he's definitely showing that, I mean, obviously, he deserves to be here.
Got the Dragon Strike available. St. Clair's going to walk right into it. Immortality Field and Transcendent solo used against the Dragon Strike. Bob does come in as well. He's going to take out the Immortality Field. Large Bagel threw down his as well. And that one will be taken out. So a lot of ult burn for a lot of nothing. And Maxwell picks up the first kill on to Bale. Gets another one on to 9. Make it 3 in a row. Plato finally coming in on the kill feed. You called it, D'Angelo. Maxwell carry for Boise State. The remaining members of St. Clair trying to do something, but they have got absolutely nothing as he'll kick Tails back to the spawn.
Arjunk's transcendences have been somewhat lackluster, and that was a very unfortunate thing that happened between 9 and Arjunk there, where, I mean, first of all, 9 got picked second in the fight by Maxwell, so Maxwell carried, but then also Arjunk and 9 are not on the same page. They both used high-value abilities.
Coming back in real time, Boise State does trade out available for Plato. Not quite the trade you want to make. AR Junk just taken out, but this is so close to the defender spawn. St. Clair has a decent advantage just because they'll come back unless Boise State gets a full team kill. Oh my goodness! Maxwell absolutely insane. He is showing up here on the stage in only his second game for Boise State. Absolutely dominating the side of St. Clair. It feels like a 1v6. Finally going to get burned down there by AR Junk, but my goodness, Maxwell is having himself an insane game here on Hollywood as Boise State kind of just in a finally trying to get a team kill onto St. Clair. They're getting close, but they really haven't been able to eliminate everybody at the same time, D'Angelo.
We didn't know what to expect from Maxwell coming in, and now we do. God tier Hanzo, apparently.
Get the Diva Bomb. That should do it for Kel with the double kill. Yes, it will. 25-player kill streak for Kel. So one new player popping off, one old Bronco popping off, but Maxwell POV, Maxwell carry the last probably 2 points there for Boise State.
In terms of eliminations, Maxwell is definitely the best thing going on for Boise State. Kel is more of a, I mean, as an off-tank is supposed to do, Kel is getting more supportive assists kind of things than he is just straight-up headshots like Maxwell over there. But both of them are absolutely serving their roles amazingly well.
Yeah, Kel doing a great job supporting Plato's just hold W style that we talked about that definitely reared its head quite a bit here on Hollywood. But I mean, for Boise State, couple of bad fights, but honestly, after first point, they just kind of rolled St. Clair.
I have not been impressed with the St. Clair support lineup with 9 and Arjunk. Yeah. And I do think the crowning moment of that was the Dragon Strike, where both of them blew the Immortality Field and the Transcendence, which either one of them would have been fine. The Dragon Strike was positioned there to get one of those out. Maxwell was not aiming for kills. Maxwell was aiming to get one of those abilities out so that they could push into that room. But then they got both. And though Boise State didn't necessarily push after they used both, they didn't necessarily take advantage of that. They waited until they dropped. But those are both huge high-value abilities that you didn't get anything out of. And I think 9 and Arjunk are not on the same page, and that is costing St. Clair.
Yeah, looks like St. Clair is going to swap over to the Lucio and the Baptiste. Boise State, though, is just going to come out of nowhere, immediately running through 9. The Immortality Field keeps Plato alive. Cheesy gets taken out as well, and I think St. Clair is going to go for a reset. And you talked about it in the open. You cannot have your support die first, and unfortunately, 9 has been the first dead quite often.
To be completely fair to 9 in that fight, it was not because 9 was out of position, because 9 was in the middle of his team as they were pushing. Yeah. The whole team wasn't ready. Nobody in that engage but Boise State was ready. So I will say that that particular dying first was not 9's fault.
Shatter's already up for Plato. Boise State again trying to do something cheeky. He's going to jump down, land the Shatter, and only lands onto 9. He is once again just the bad luck for him. Available and Cheesy do go down. Plato will be taken out by Apostle, but Boise State without their tank will make quick work of it. And what a snipe by Maxwell, my goodness. But again, this isn't 9's fault. Like, you just feel bad for him.
I mean, at that point, everybody should have been wondering, where is the Reinhardt? He's not in front of us, so he must be behind us. To be perfectly honest, I, again, don't think St. Clair was ready for Boise State. I don't think they expected Plato to have that ultimate up. On the topic of Maxwell, though, who we currently have the POV of, nice.
Absolutely insane. Does finally die, so maybe we jinx him there a little bit. Deadeye's going to come out from Goblin. Does get one onto Apostle while the Diva was charging him, then a headshot onto Cal's. Absolutely impressive performance there. And that's really the first time St. Clair's had a straight-up fight, but it's the same result, the Boise State win.
At this point, St. Clair should be prepared for them to come behind. The first time, it's like, oh, okay, we weren't ready for that. The second time, at this point, there's no excuse for them to not be ready for it because...
What about a fourth time? Should they be ready for the fourth time, D'Angelo, as they lose one?
Probably.
Make it 2, 3, and the rest of them should fall in shorter. Yeah. I feel like, you know, fool me once, shame on me. You know, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. You should expect this the second time.
It's especially from the same place that they had already done it before. They just had a shatter this time. So they don't even have the benefit of, we can't even give them the benefit of the doubt for like coming from a different place because nope, they've used that exact one before.
I don't think we got it solid. I heard the players going crazy. I think Maxwell both died to the Diva Bomb and killed G2 Cal at the exact same time.
Which is honestly what we expect out of Maxwell at this point. I mean, even if he's going to go down, take somebody with him.
Blizzard is going to be eaten by Cal. That is a huge play. AR Junk does get the sound barrier down. Diva Bomb goes off. Nerdy sound barrier saves a couple for Boise State as the Diva Bomb picks up 2. And St. Clair can do nothing against this Bronco defense. They're just going to let Cals be waited out there. And Boise State hasn't really lost a single fight, and we're in last fight territory.
Lots of sin emojis coming out for on the side of Boise State. We've seen Maxwell do it, we've seen Kel do it, and they have both more than earned a little bit of a moaning, just a little.
Their play on Hollywood has been spectacular. Plato, I think, landed a shatter. Now, Boise State is going to eat a 4-man shatter from St. Clair and Apostle. They will lose a large bagel, but Boise State's going to pick up Apostle in return. 9's dropping incredibly low. Gonna have to retreat. Kel does finally get taken out of the mech. Deadeye picks up Maxwell as well, and Boise State maybe having a bit too much fun as overtime strikes. They're gonna have to wait for the reset. Plato sneaking away. Might be able to pincer here. We'll see if he can get there in time.
I don't think they know Plato's there. Fish, I don't think they know Plato's there.
Oh, somebody does. He's taking a lot of damage. Yeah, he ended up getting found out by Available, and it looks like St. Clair gonna punish Boise State's jubilation a little bit and force us into a couple, 2.5 more minutes at least of some Overwatch on Hollywood.
Honestly, this is the activation season. If there's any time to have too much fun on the side of Boise State, now is definitely the time. And I think you nailed it when you said that they were having too much fun. We are not seeing the best out of our players right now. We're just seeing them doing things for giggles.
Hey, they're still winning 3-1. Now, if they lose that second point here, they might be running laps if Doc wants them to. So I'm sure they'll focus in here as Kel is taken low, so is Plato. Both healed back up as St. Clair just holding the high ground. AR Junk back there on the point pushing. There's a Deadeye that will come out from Gob. Diva Bomb from Kale is kind of going to force Boise State away. Does take out the Immortality Field. 9 goes down. Goblin's going to get in one onto Cheesy. And just like that, St. Clair, pretty much of what we saw at the start of this map with Boise State defending. A fight breaks out and Boise State wins it.
We've railed on 9 enough. We know it's unacceptable for him to die first. Somebody that we haven't touched on yet, Fish, is Cheesy. And the amount of times that he is... Oh,
they died to the remake.
The ultimate dishonor. Did you see that, baby? She walked into their team just to commit the ultimate dishonor on a large bagel there. Unfortunate, Fish.
I mean, this is why this was put in. Blizzard didn't like this sort of interaction of punishing the baby diva, and Kales absolutely nails it. Does look like we go back in live. Kales picked up a double kill with the Diva Bomb, making a third with the rockets onto Cheesy. And we'll see if Boise State has as much fun with the Divas. It looks like Kales is just going to run away. Yeah, I was going to say, you know, not to be mean, but it does feel like the names for St. Clair from left to right are kind of ordered in the way they've been dying.
With maybe a swap here and there.
The first two, Cheesy and 9, have died first alive.
Absolutely.
You just can't have that happen if you're St. Clair. They'll get one more fight. I think Boise State's plan, though, is to end this map and get us to a third map. Remember, we'll play the third map regardless of what happens. NECC does like map count as Boise State has 4 ults available. Shatter is going to land on the Nerdy and Play-Doh. Immortality Field will keep them both alive. Sound Barrier for good measures. AR Jump taken out by that Deadeye. A nice Blizzard's going to get a freeze onto 2 more for St. Clair, and they are going to go back to spawn. It's available in Kells that are left, but neither on the cart. And Boise State, small hiccup, picks up the victory in the end.
Play-Doh was the price there. He did end up getting picked off by 9 of all people on the Baptiste. The play of the game will go to Kel.
Kel has absolutely been insane with these D.Va buffs. I think averaging 1 or 2 kills. This is the one, if I believe correctly, that pretty much ended the attack for Boise State. Picks up a double kill here. Ends with a 25-player kill streak, as you mentioned, just a lot of supportive assists, and Boise State goes up 2-0 in the series. Like we said, we will play one more map regardless. Well, Drop In Gaming is the premier online platform for gamers who seek competition. Play your favorite games to win cash and prizes through free and paid entry matches and tournaments. Whether you're new to the scene or a seasoned veteran, Drop In Gaming is the right games and competitions for you. To begin your competitive gaming journey, sign up at dropingaming.com. Now we'll go to everyone's favorite map for Escort, which is Havana, and you and I have talked a lot both on stream and off stream of the difficulties that teams are going to have on Havana. But first, let's wrap up our Hollywood thoughts before we go to break, D'Angelo. I mean, Boise State, attacking was a bit rough, defending was basically seamless.
Defending, the only hiccup in Boise State's defense was, I mean, as it occasionally is, especially in the preseason, themselves having too much fun. And that is a very Boise State thing to do, as affectionately as possible, to completely roll a team for most of the map, but then give up a point or 2, or in some cases 3, just because they're having too much fun. And this is the preseason. There isn't necessarily such a thing as too much fun.
Especially when you're winning still.
So it's, absolutely. So it's not really of great consequence. They didn't lose anything. They just gave us an extra 2 minutes and 21 seconds, and poor Bagel got the ultimate dishonor of, it was ultimately not a very impactful dishonor, but just got walked on by the David, who he was looking at, by the way. A large Bagel was watching the baby D.Va and shooting at the baby D.Va as she was approaching to remake on him, and that was just beautiful.
That was, big shout out to G2 Chaos, honestly, because that was absolutely hilarious. Well, we're going to take a quick break. As I mentioned, we're going to Havana. We're going to play it regardless. We know Boise State has won, if you will. Again, it's the preseason, but we're going to Havana because in the NECC regular season, map score does matter. We saw that play out in the spring. So
Visit NationalGuard.com to begin your guard adventure.
The news says Gen Z is struggling. I've got news for them.
I wait tables, but last week I built a field hospital.
I put out a forest fire.
I stopped 1,000 attackers.
And a natural disaster.
I've saved lives. And led a team on patrol.
I serve.
Well, I go to school full-time.
While I work full-time.
The greater the challenge, the stronger we become.
from the same spot.
Welcome back into the Boise State Game Pants Esports Arena, watching our coverage of NECC Collegiate Overwatch Activation Week here for the NECC. Just trying to get everybody sorted out, make sure you're in the right group, in the right divisions in the regular season that will kick off here in 2 weeks. You see the Boise State Overwatch team up on the stage. All laughs and giggles during our break because they have been having a ton of fun. St. Clair, not so much, as we go to Havana for our third and final map. Again, Boise State, they've already won the series, if you will, but the NECC, even in the regular season, does play all 3 maps, as map score is a tiebreaker for overall record. Fish and D'Angelo here calling all of the action. And D'Angelo, I mean, we talked about it a lot, and I mean, we talked about it in our open. Maxwell, the new DPS player here for Boise State, there were some questions just from you and I about, hey, is he going to fit in with Goblin's crazy playstyle, which we haven't seen luckily too much of, though he did have an insane McCree play. And I honestly think Maxwell has been phenomenal tonight, especially on that May, which we saw a ton of on Hollywood.
Yes. I do think that the biggest, most notable impact he's had was on Hanzo, because not only was he popping off, but he also forced the enemy team to make some very poor decisions and some lapses in communication. So I do actually think that for Knight, at least, Maxwell has been more of a highlight than Goblin, which is very strange to say, because usually Goblin is the most interesting thing that we cast about, but...
You know, Goblin hasn't gone off on Goblin's bizarro adventures yet that you and I have seen quite our fair share of as we do go to Havana. Once again, I would say we both probably expect St. Clair to defend first. Am I wrong in that statement?
If you pick anything other than defense first on Havana, it's not very forward thinking of you, because Havana is such a defensively oriented map. It is not funny. I jokingly refer to Havana as 2CP in disguise, because truly all the points of Havana feel like that. With one good stop, they can just stop you there forever. With the slight exception of first point, you usually want to watch out for snipers on first point, but if you get stopped on second point, Havana, there's only 5 doorways total that you can come through. So there is no flanking whatsoever. Second point, they know where you're coming from. If you get stopped second point, you're probably not getting to third. And I mean, just to be honest, Fish, you're probably not getting third to third in general.
Yeah, no.
If the defending team halfway knows what they're doing.
I have a feeling St. Clair might have... No, never mind. They did choose to defend first. They're actually going to go for a close hold. We've seen something Boise State has done a lot. They're going to get the first elimination onto Plato. They'll take out the Immortality field as well. Asu goes down, so does Kel. And Large Bagel out in the corner there on that Zenyatta. I think just trying to draw some fire to build some space, but a great start there for St. Clair with that close hold.
And we do have Asu swapped in, who's a phenomenal support that we saw climb 1,500 SR in a single season, and it's great to see another returning player, especially someone that we can have a lot of confidence in. And we've seen a Large Bagel switched over to the off-healer role, which is normally what Bagel does anyway.
Boise State still trying to break out of this close hold. Goblin has gone over to the Junkrat. Here comes Plato charging in, gets the pin onto the Diva. Is able to, nope, not quite able to get out that mech, and he will be taken out. Goblin just trying to spam some grenades as the Ant Matrix does go down, and Boise State really hasn't had an answer for this so far.
Plato is not ready for the amount of damage that he is taking. Boise State is expecting to be the ones dishing out tons of damage because they have Zenyatta and Junkrat, but actually, it has been Plato taking much more damage than he's been prepared for.
He does get a shatter, but it only lands onto the Diva. It does break the mech, but Plato's still the first one taken out. They'll trade 1 for 1 before Cheesy picks up a double kill himself. Sound barrier from AR Junk. Feels like that might have been a waste. We'll be curious to see if they would have needed it, but once again, you're right. Plato is just first one dying, and it feels like maybe that DPS mindset's taken over here.
A Large Bagel has been playing Baptiste all night. Otherwise, I'm confident he would have won that 1v1 against the McCree there, just because that is what we expect from a Large Bagel.
Interesting that St. Clair ends up opting to break the close hold. They did burn 2 minutes off the clock. Available's going to go with that Deadeye. Great Naywall does come out from Maxwell, but a Large Bagel just gets caught out in the wrong position. Riddick Flux goes up and down goes Apostle, but an Immortality Field saves him. It does immediately get taken out. Apostle now goes down. Ant Matrix will come out from the side of St. Clair as 9 puts that one down, and the rest of the team will get a double kill in return. And Boise State just absolutely has been shut down here on Havana, and they're running out of time.
They're running out of time for two main reasons here. Plato is not ready for the amount of damage he's taking at all. And a large bagel, we are not seeing the 10 out of 10 gameplay that we usually see from a large bagel on Zenyatta. What we have been seeing from him so far has been lackluster at best.
Does have the Transcendence available. Boise State also has the Blizzard, as Cheesy will use that, and St. Clair is just running through Boise State. Not what I expected, especially after how Hollywood went. So a big shout out to St. Clair for kind of regaining some composure, and now Boise State's in the final 60 seconds. They do have 2 ults up. Plato coming up on his second shatter. Great Maywall. As they're going to land a double shatter, a double stun there. Blizzard is going to go down as well as a Transcendence, but the Diva Bomb picks up the first elimination onto Asu. Maxwell's Blizzard only takes down 9's Immortality Field. 9 will now fall. Apostle has thrown out his shatter. High Noon comes out for Bailable, and this is just not, it feels like almost on a completely different team for Boise State near D'Angelo. They have got nothing.
And I will say something for the side of Bailable on the McCree. He has been doing an exceptional job, completely shutting down a large bagel on Zenyatta, but also pumping a ton of damage into Plato and the rest of our tanks. Boise State doesn't have any ultimates to do this, so I hope they get it together here.
Very aggressive sound barrier from AR Junk. Boise State just basically waited out the duration. Ant Matrix does though down, as well as an Immortality Field. Asu's the first one eliminated, and that's about to do it. Goblin's going to call in Bob. Boise State's going to have to kind of just death run the point. Kel's going to need the best Diva Bomb he's ever had in his life. And instead, he's just going to find himself back in spawn. Overtime will expire, and Boise State, 28 meters. I don't want to speak for you, D'Angelo, but that was not what I was expecting.
I don't think that's what anybody was expecting, to be perfectly honest. Although on the side of St. Clair, that was a phenomenal close hold. I will say, though, Asu did not get picked first for the majority of fights, but those last 2 fights, the 2 where it mattered arguably the most, he did go down first, and that is unfortunate and a really quick way for everybody to lose the fight. Now, there were a lot of things not going well for Boise State, but those last couple definitely did not help. Now, if Boise State wants to hold this, they truly need to press their foreheads to the enemy's spawn window.
And I thought St. Clair, they did a good job. I mean, usually when we've seen, especially Boise State close hold, it's kind of like a YOLO close hold, go till you die. St. Clair had that like about 2 minutes in. They backed off, regrouped, and then close held again. It was a very interesting strategy. Yeah, Boise State's going to have to basically sit in the spawn. They can't afford, I would think, to lose a single fight here. Maybe one.
They, on defense, cannot afford to lose a single fight in its entirety at all. They could maybe afford to lose a couple of players, depending on how well the frontline fight is going, but they can't lose a fight. Just like St. Clair never lost a fight. They have to play effectively, perfectly, as a team.
This is going to be hard-pressed for Boise State.
I believe.
We're used to this being how Boise State looks after defending first. As we kick it off, Cheesy and Apostle both can be taken out, but Bailable does pick up 2, make it 3. Boise State without both supports, now without everybody. Kel's the last one left. Asu has to go to the Moira to get back in time. I don't think it's going to happen.
I don't think he does. If Asu does, he's going to get immediately eliminated by the Bastion. They came out with much more damage than Boise State was expecting, and today is not Asu's day. He was eliminated first there, and then that was the end of the Boise State hold. We were talking about how they needed to play perfectly. Losing your main support first is definitely not the perfect that we're looking for here. But we did already win the other 2 maps, and this is the preseason, so I wouldn't feel too bad about that if I were Boise State.
No, that odd review will be rough. I'll imagine that much. But no, Boise State still picks up the victory, as you mentioned. Clearly shows that there are some things for Havana, especially with a team that close holds, because we talked about it, especially you mentioned it a lot when Boise State was attacking. St. Clair just absolutely bullied Plato on that Reinhardt. every single time. Like, Boise State just didn't have a front line because Plato would try and go in. And as you mentioned, just I don't know if he wasn't ready for the damage or what it was, but it was just Plato got bullied, and when you don't have a main tank, it's so hard to get out of Havana when you're getting close health.
And part of how they bullied Plato was they also bullied Boise State supports.
Yep.
We did not see anything impressive from the Boise State support lineup on Havana, which is unfortunate because those are both absolutely amazing players. And I would like to believe that is, I mean, I know that is not their peak performance, obviously.
Yes.
But part of what was bullying Plato was the fact that part of it was that he was inting and they were ready for that and inting harder as a group. But part of it was also his supports were getting inted on and like losing 1v1s to the McCree and just things that definitely did not help his case.
Well, this is the sort of weird thing about the NECC, though. We end on a very low note, but in the end, Boise State did win the map, which of course means, we do have our ICCU player of the game. I mean, I think that there's a ton of deserving people. Who would you maybe lean towards, D'Angelo, for your first ICCU player of the game of the year to hand out?
I want to give it to Maxwell because not only is he a new player that proved, I mean, he got picked for Boise State in the first place, so obviously he must be something special, right?
Yep.
But he definitely proved tonight on cast as well that he obviously deserves to be here.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think Maxwell would have been a great choice. It will go to Plato because I feel like if you forget about Havana, we just pretend Havana never happened. We, men in black it away from our memories. Plato on that Reinhardt was very strong, especially on those first two maps, and Hollywood in particular had some great shatters.
Control was a little bit rough for Plato. Control was very much like a DPS, 0 or 100. You either got it or you didn't for Plato on Control. But on Hollywood, the whole of Boise State was firing on all cylinders, and those shatters enabled us to team wipe. This was the second time they got ambushed in this position. The first time not with a shatter, but the second time with a shatter. And Plato just did a very nice job, which, I mean, when you're ambushing somebody, usually your Reinhardt will be the person that shines because they were fighting them in a group, and his hammer hits multiple people, and his ultimate is really easy to hit when they're not looking at you and all together. So I will say that whole thing was just a Plato highlight reel.
Yeah, Plato, spectacular. So was Maxwell. So was the rest of Boise State. Again, we just forget about Havana. Player of the game, though, is brought to you by Idaho Central Credit Union. He's a great player, makes the team more successful, just like Idaho Central's helping members achieve financial success. Hey, you can't be successful without a main tank. So Plato is the ICCU player of the game. Will we prepare to close out this one? As we said, we should have another match coming up later on. We will have to find out. But your final takeaways for Boise State St. Clair in our first NECC Overwatch match of the season.
Good job, St. Clair. You took a bad situation and you absolutely turned it on its head. And I think that if you played like you did on Havana tonight, might have been very different. Because part of what happened on Havana was Boise State was not playing to the best of their abilities, but also St. Clair really just got it together. And I would be curious to see as to what happened that just made them a much better team within the time span of a couple minutes.
Yeah, it felt like a different team.
Teach me your secrets, please. This is something that's important.
Yeah, whoever the coach was for St. Clair, whoever the in-game leader was, you deserve a ton of credit because Nepal was good. I mean, they won the first map on Nepal. The other two maps were a little iffy. Hollywood was a disaster, and then, like you said, they took like a punch to the mouth and then immediately came back with a counterpunch. So, huge shout-out to St. Clair. As I said, we should have one more Overwatch game coming up. After this will be Boise State and UC Santa Cruz. But for now, we will present you with our Idaho Army National Guard top 5 plays. The Idaho Army National Guard invites you to take your impressive critical thinking skills into real time. More than 10 jobs offering a $20,000 bonus and your degree of choice paid for it. The Idaho Army National Guard is the best team out there. Reach out on Twitch at iGuard Gaming. Don't go anywhere. We've got more Overwatch coming up. But here are your top 5 plays for Boise State's win over St. Clair. A fight breaks out and Boise State wins it.
We've railed on 9 enough. We know it's unacceptable for him to die first. Somebody that we haven't touched on yet, Fish, is Cheesy, and the amount of times that he is. Oh,
they died to the remake.
The ultimate dishonor. Did you see?
Matrix goes down from a large bagel. Only ult in the game right now. Cal's going to get his mech taken out. Nine's immortality field is on cooldown as well. St. Clair running on fumes defensively and immediately loses 3 members, including a tank. Available can't even get the photon barrier down. And this should be game for Boise State. A rough first map on control. Maxwell picks up the first kill on to Bale. Gets another one on to 9.
Maxwell.
Make it 3 in a row. Plato finally coming in on the kill feed. You called it, D'Angelo. Maxwell carry for Boise State. The remaining members of St. Clair trying to do something, but they have got absolutely nothing as he'll kick Kales back to the spawn.
Argent's transcendences have been the second time. At this point, there's no excuse for them to not be ready for it because.
What about a 4th time? Should they be ready for the 4th time, D'Angelo, as they lose 1?
Probably.
Make it 2, 3, and the rest of them should fall short. Yeah. I feel like, you know, full.
And that is something Boise State needs to rectify within the next 75% here.
How about right now as we get a nice shatter, but it goes into an immortality field and an ant matrix. So Boise State ends up surviving through all of that. They take out 4 Cals just out of the mech. Can they get the team wipe? Yes, they can.